True, and that's what the Democrats have been laying out. Look, at the end of the day, also Democrats aren't in charge. So what they can do is they can push a message, they can try to delay it, make it as painful as possible, the pill as painful as possible for Republicans to swallow, and that is their job. Right?
Well, the jagged little pill could be a possibility, and yet I recall when Democrats were in power, Republicans did more than just have the potential pill. I mean, are they not going to exploit the window that might be there?
Well, I think they're exploiting the window. I mean, the deal now is go to the Senate, find 2 more votes. You've already got 2 Republicans who said no. If you can get Lisa Murkowski, if you can get Senator Collins, if you get them to vote no, you can shut this thing down. The reality is, though, Donald Trump is the biggest voice in the Republican Party, and he can do what he has to do. But lastly, I got to say, that bolo tie with the polo shirt, it's fashionable.
Oh, my God.
It's edgy. It's
All
edgy.
Right. You heard it here first. I guess we're doing fashion now, but let's talk about Elon Musk for a second, because frankly, he has been out of fashion. See what I did there? When it comes to the Republican Party, particularly Donald Trump. And yet he is making his clear political threat, Jeanette, to back primary challengers against Republicans who vote in favor of this bill. He said that they should hang their head in shame. Now, as you know, the legislation would add more than $3 trillion to the deficit. But is Musk as powerful or influential as he once was? Is this a threat that they will take and heed?
I don't know. I mean, his stock has gone way down in the past couple of months, no pun intended. And listen, I have a feeling that if those clean energy tax credits had made it into the bill, he would be singing a different tune right now. He also said he's going to start a third party called the America Party tomorrow, and this is, everything. Party.
He's boy who cried wolf.
I happen to think he is. We'll see if he puts his money where he did. But remember, a couple of months ago, he said he's out of politics. He's not going to put any money behind elections anymore. So, I mean, what is he going to do? Join the Forward Party with Andrew Yang and Chrissy Whitman? I highly doubt it. But again, he's on the side of cutting more spending and cutting more Medicaid funding. So, it remains to be seen if he's going to do anything. But listen, I think Republicans know who the real leader of the Republican Party is right now, and that's Donald Trump.
It occurs to me people might have whiplash, though, thinking about who's in favor and who's not. I mean, dojis or not, friendships or not. And, of course, this is part of the concern for voters who have a long memory, even a short one, to remember the power of Elon Musk. Let me ask you this in terms of polling, Jamal.
Yeah.
Because a new Yale Budget Lab analysis estimates that the current changes proposed by the Senate would result in the bottom 20% losing about $700 in income. The top 1% would see an increase of $30,000. Again, you wonder about the haves, have-nots, up in the bottom in this great, rift in between. How is that going to sit with voters?
The polling isn't great for Republicans right now. The Fox News poll that only has 38% of voters who are in favor of this thing. There are other polls that say only 67% of Republicans are in favor of this bill. That's horrible. 71% of independents are against the bill. So you start to see numbers like that. If I'm a senator sitting there and I got to run for re-election a year and a half from now, I'm getting very nervous. I think they can't count this thing out yet.
So given that polling, and of course, Tillis, for example, is saying, okay, well, I'm not even running for re-election here. So is he going to become some sort of a symbolic voice that gives in the ability of others to criticize?
Listen, if Tillis had stayed and fought and ran for re-election, I would say yes. But the fact that he's not even running for re-election, I just think he's
makes him obsolete.
Well, yeah, I think so. But listen, as to the polling, I think the polling is bad right now because we're just watching sausage being made. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Once this bill gets passed, 6 months from now, these tax cuts go into effect. People have more money in their pocket. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. That is what the American people voted for. And I think you're going to see the poll numbers, increase. Just like the poll numbers were bad for tariffs, we haven't really seen that hit on our economy. So I think it's going to turn around very quickly.
I don't know. I did see a polling number that was pretty interesting. It said that people were in favor of the tax cuts, right, for everybody. But when you told them that there were tax cuts going to people who made more than $400,000, dropped like a rock. People don't want rich people getting tax cuts while they're going to get Medicaid cuts and see rural hospitals get closed. That's just not something that people are up for.
But the bottom line is in 2017, households in the lower and middle class, they made a substantial amount back in their pockets with the tax cuts, and they'll do so again. Nobody wants the other guy to get ahead in these poll numbers. So I think it's just normal human nature. I think once the actual economy improves, the tax cuts go through, I think the Republicans are going to be in good shape.
And then we had a pandemic, and the president couldn't figure out what to do with it. So.
Well, that's just. Oh, I have to go tip for tap for a while. Have a commercial break. Jeanette, Jamal, thank you so much. Hey, still ahead, Senator Tom Tillis becomes just the latest Republican, as we're talking about it, to call it quits after challenging President Trump. So what does it say about the state of the Republican Party? Well, former Republican Congressman Mo Brooks is standing by on that next. And later, 2 firefighters shot, killed, what police are calling a sniper's ambush. The new clues emerging tonight about the 20-year-old suspect's potential motive. I've decided to take on a very ambitious feast at my new home of Margarita. With these dishes, the party should be a slam dunk.
Gloria searching for Stan. Sunday at 8 on CNN.
Exhaustipated. When you're tired of your backed up gut and you need fast relief. New MiraFast works naturally with your body in as little as 30 minutes. New MiraFast acts faster, works gently.
Itch, scratch, must not itch.
Stop the itch sanity with Cortisone 10 for bug bites, poison ivy, and other itches. It works fast and lasts for hours. Cortisone 10. And for no mess relief, try new cooling spray.
Have a great performance starts with a great night's sleep. Thanks to new Natrol Sleep and Restore, which helps me be this me, this me, this me. I'm kidding. To be my best at all of this, I have to be my best at this. Every great night's sleep starts with Natrol.
New Natrol Sleep and Restore.
Ooh, bitch, I'm full.
Oh, I wish my TV provider let me choose what I pay.
Girl, you know she be lighting up them J's all day long, bitch, at the house. You could tell she be lighting up J's.
My TV provider let me pause my subscription when I want.
Sling, let you do that, fuck boy.
And I wish my TV provider gave me hundreds of free channels when I pose.
But in our name, is this the girl that drew the wing?
Let's see if it's a smart thing.
You know.
Could be a Papa Smurf.
Really?
Who knows?
But in our name,
It's always going to be an R name. That's the one thing me and Rocky don't fight over.
is this the girl that drew the wing?
Let's see if it's a smart thing.
Girl, she just letting us know. Bitch, y'all ain't never getting no more music, bitch.
Who knows?
Bitch, she's on child number 3, bitch.
It's always going to be an R name. That's the one thing me and Rocky don't fight over.
Is this the girl that drew the wing?
Let's see if it's a smart thing.
You know.
Could be a Papa Smurf. Who knows?
But in our name,
It's always going to be an R name. That's the one thing me and Rocky don't fight over.
I love it. So it's Rocky, Rihanna, Riz, and what's the other one? I forgot the other one.
Could be a Papa Smurf. Who knows?
but in our name,
It's always going to be an R name. That's the one thing me and Rocky don't fight over.
is this the girl?
I love it. She said, bitch, no. She said, no, bitch, it's not. It's not.
For free.
It's another man.
Sling lets you do that.
She said, no, it's not. It's going to be a boy, basically. She let us know it's going to be a boy. But that nose is nose and nose. She has pregnancy nose like a
You
mother.
never have to worry about damage from clogged gutters again. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER today or visit leaffilter.com.
Why do couples choose a Sleep Number smart bed? Can it keep me warm when I'm cold?
Wait, no, I'm always hot.
Sleep Number does that.
Can I make my side softer?
I like my side firmer. Sleep Number does that. Your ideal firmness and effortless comfort all night.
Can it help us sleep better and better?
Please.
Sleep Number does that. 4th of July week is here. Save 20% on most smart beds plus free home delivery when you add dates. Check out a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Don't go back.
Good morning. Hey. Good morning. New Dulcolax Liquid Gel with Liquid Core reactivates your natural gut rhythm overnight for relief that feels amazing. New Dulcolax Liquid Gel.
Saving for retirement was tough enough.
And navigating markets can be challenging at times.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we keep a disciplined approach with your portfolio, helping you through the market's ups and downs.
What about communication?
We check in regularly to keep you informed.
Which means you'll help us stay on track?
Yes, as a fiduciary, we always put your interest first because we do better when you do better. At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
In a Jurassic World, every Jeep vehicle is Jurassic rated. Experience open air freedom for all. Unsurpassed stone, no matter what it is. Or a third row to fit in all the adventure. Jeep, Jurassic World Rebirth.
Right now with Employee Pricing Plus, purchase and get an average of $7,000 below MSRP on select 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee gas models in stock. Hurry, this great offer will become extinct June 30th.
From Rose Bowl festivities to Major League ballparks, ESPN Experiences takes you behind the scenes and inside the action. Next stop, the Travelers Championship. Your all-access pass starts here.
I'm Ben Wiedemann in Rome, and this is CNN.
What do I tell 663,000 people in 2 years or 3 years when President Trump breaks his promise by pushing them off of Medicaid because the funding's not there anymore? It is inescapable that this bill in its current form will betray the very promise that Donald J. Trump made in the Oval Office.
North Carolina Republican Senator Tom Tillis scolding President Trump in his big, beautiful bill while announcing his retirement. But Trump doesn't seem to care that he's losing another Republican in Congress. His response to Tillis' retirement, quote, great news. As for Tillis, he's apparently out tonight, waving and even blowing a kiss to the C-SPAN cameras on the Senate floor. Well, my next guest is all about President Trump, former Alabama Congressman, Republican.
They love rice. Yeah, girl, they love rice. Let me let you know, they love rice.
least 2 of these predicate acts: kidnapping or arson or witness tampering or drug distribution. And then they have to answer if that pattern of racketeering activity included sex trafficking, Cassie Ventura, or Jane. They're 2 of the 4 accusers who have alleged Combs has done such. Before the day ended, the jurors had another question for the judge. That won't be answered until deliberations resume tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Talk about all of this here and answer your questions as well with CNN legal analyst and criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson, former federal prosecutor Eric Berger, and jury consultant Bernardo Stabile. Glad to have all of you here. I'll read these books later, because I am very curious as to what happens in his mind Giddy right now. But Bernardo, look, jurors asked the judge in one of their questions late in the day, if someone hands over drugs to someone who is requesting them, a big part of this, is that distribution? Now, they're going to answer it tomorrow. Of course, there is an answer to that question. The prosecution already fronted that, and the answer is essentially yes, if you give them out, distribution. However, what are you thinking when you hear the jurors ask a question like that?
Well, that could just be coming from one juror. It's not necessarily that all 12 jurors want to know the answer to that. So I think they are progressing through the different RICO predicates that they have to consider, and they're up on this one. Now, they've been there for 5 hours, so they may have moved through several of them, and they're just getting to this one. Or they had a general discussion. Often jurors get in the room, and the first thing they do is they sort of take a straw poll, right? They say, how do people feel about the different counts? We don't really know. We're all reading here about what they're doing.
But on that point, just as you mentioned, the idea of every juror note, especially one that came within an hour, when you think about that, this is the very first time these jurors have really conversed about the case. They're meeting each other in a way about their mindset on this case. When you're consulting with a team, how do you prepare them for jury notes?
Well, everybody's going to huddle around, and what I tell people is you really can't read too much into it. Some jury notes are obvious, but like the note we got earlier about one juror not following the judge's instructions, we don't know if that's a pro-prosecution. We don't know if that person walked in and said he's guilty. What are we going to waste our time for? Or that person was pro-defense and said, look, I think this is a setup. I think he's being targeted for whatever reason, and I'm not going to convict him.
Joey, talk to me about that, because juror 2025, the idea of the unable to follow the instructions. It was 2.5 hours, almost 3, of jury instructions this morning alone. So we don't know which aspect they're talking about, but what did you make of it?
First of all, Laura, shout out to Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. I have read that book. It includes so many positive aspects, biblical references. It's amazing. So he's keeping himself comforted.
So well now. Okay, here we go.
Keeping himself comforted. As to the issue regarding what happened today, look, I think the juror has a good faith obligation to deliberate, but let's understand this. The jury, while they cannot speak with each other about the case until such time as the judge allows, they have formulated opinions about it. They have sat there through all of the testimony. They have certainly been compelled by one thing or not compelled by the other, and they have a certain, position as to it. And you still have an obligation, certainly, to join and engage with your fellow jurors. But let's just say, for example, this juror says, I don't care what you say to me. He's not guilty. I don't care what you say to me. Right? Is that him not participating? All right. This is a person who has heard the evidence, and I can sit there and listen to your perspective. The law doesn't require that I change it. Last point, Laura, and this is fertile for appeal. The judge has to really tap dance around how they respond to this question. So with the judge simply saying, hey, follow my instructions, go back into that jury room and do the best you can with regard to that was the only way I think the judge could approach this tonight.
Because in my mother, she's still maybe come back there. That's what's going to happen next. Let me get to the questions. I want to hear Barrett's answer about this as well, because we've got a lot of people asking questions, and we want to pick all of your brains here about the Giddy trial. The first one is Bill from Kentucky, and he asks, can this juror be dismissed in an alternate seated? Barrett?
So the juror could be dismissed if, for example, the juror refuses to deliberate or says, I've been doing something that was in opposition to the judge's order, like I've been reading the newspaper about this or something. If there's some evidence that the juror is really, completely disavowing the judge's instructions, they could be dismissed. If it's just a juror that's like, my mind is made up, I'm not really so engaged, probably not. What would happen is the judge would ultimately give what's called an Allen charge, which is like, you really can't stop deliberating, you must work with each other. It's, as forceful as you can get, but ultimately that would end in the jury.
No, we'll see. We're not going to question because Jose wants to know this answer. Which charge will probably be the easiest and which one will be the hardest to conclude in verdict?
So certainly the RICO is going to be the hardest. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets acquitted on the RICO and convicted of the others. But I think transporting the male escorts for purposes of prosecution, that I'm not even sure what the defense is. I think he'll probably certainly get convicted of those, and then he faces a 10-year maximum sentence on those two charges. But remember, they could be stacked if he was convicted of them.
We'll see. Of course, we didn't hear from alleged male escorts who had traveled yet in this case. We'll see. A big question we got, Summer asks it, Joey. Why did Christina Coram nor P-Rock or other bodyguards testify for the defense or prosecution? Seems like they would have sealed the deal for one of the sides.
Well, as to not testifying for the defense has no obligation to call any witness. They have no burden of proof, and it certainly isn't up to them. It's not their case. It's the government's case. The government has the burden. And I would say, although of course the government waxes poetic, hey, you were defense equally in a position to call them nonsense.
I was trying to figure out why do you have to go there?
Conspiracy here, you called them. However, from a prosecution's perspective, these witnesses were technically the conspiracy witnesses, the ones in the organization for which RICO can be formatted, meaning he engaged in a conspiracy to engage in illegality. And if the government would have brought them, perhaps it would have said it. We'll never know.
Really quick, Barrett, why do you think the prosecution didn't?
So I think there's probably two reasons. One, they think that they are so guilty, that there's so much, potential exposure that they would obviously plead the fifth, and they didn't want to immunize. That's not a good look to immunize one. Or they were thinking maybe there's a time that they would ultimately bring charges against them, so they didn't want to have them immunized for purposes of this trial.
We'll see how the jurors think about it. Thank you so much, you guys. Renata, Brado, thank you. Joey and Barrett stand by because no one saw this next story coming. Brian Koberger agreeing to a plea deal in the murders of 4 college students in Idaho. How did this come together? And the furious reaction from one of the victims' family. Next.
Billionaire Boys Club from your Sunday, July 13th on CNN.
I have type 2 diabetes, but I manage it well. It's a little pill with a big story to tell. I take one daily Jardians, and each day smart. As time went on, it was easy to see. I'm lowering my A1C.
And for adults with type 2 diabetes and known heart disease, Jardians can lower the risk of cardiovascular death too.
Serious side effects include increased ketones in blood or urine, which can be fatal. Stop Jardians and call your doctor right away if you have nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, tiredness, trouble breathing, or increased ketones. Jardians may cause dehydration that can suddenly worsen the condition and make you feel dizzy, lightheaded, or weak upon standing. Genital yeast infections in men and women, urinary tract infections, low blood sugar, or a rare life-threatening bacterial infection between and around the anus and genitals can occur. Call your doctor right away if you have fever or feel weak or tired, and pain, tenderness, swelling, or redness in the genital area. Don't use if allergic to Jardians. Stop use if you have a serious allergic reaction. Call your doctor if you have rash, swelling, difficulty breathing, or swallowing. You may have increased risk for lower limb loss. Call your doctor right away if you have new pain or tenderness, sores, ulcers, or infection in your legs or feet.
Jardians is really swell, the little pill with a big story to tell.
Mirror Joy, the overwhelming relief after Miralax helps you go. Miralax works naturally with the water in your body. Miralax, free your guides to free your mood.
For more fiber per serving than any other gummy, try Mira Fiber.
New Game Tangle Scent Booster. With 2 irresistible scents coming together, you can't help but dance. Oh, wow. That's fresh. New Game Tangle Scent Booster. More scent, more joy.
Itch, scratch, bust, itch.
Stop the itch sanity with Cortisone 10 for bug bites, poison ivy, and other itches. It works fast and lasts for hours. Cortisone 10. And for no mess relief, try new cooling spray.
At Morgan Stanley, old school hard work meets bold new thinking. Partnering to unlock new ideas, to create new legacies, to transform a company, industry, economy, generation. Because grit and vision working in lockstep puts you on the path to your full potential. Old school grit, new world ideas. Morgan Stanley.
Double X. Good morning. Hey. Good morning. New Double X Liquid Gel with Liquid Core reactivates your natural gut rhythm overnight for relief that feels amazing. New Double X Liquid Gel.
High heat, wet hair, aka straightener sizzle. OGX weightless impairments for non-stop damage protection. OGX.
I'm the president of After School All Stars. Through innovative and enriching programs, we're helping students succeed in and out of the classroom. But more kids than ever are struggling with anxiety and depression, economic hardships,
Better calm down.
and the overuse of devices are all contributing factors. We must work together to empower parents to keep their kids happy and safe. Youth mental health is a difficult challenge. It requires a comprehensive solution.
Arthritis causes pain in your joints. Unlike pills, Voltaren gel is applied to the site of pain, penetrating deep through the skin to the joint, reducing intense pain caused by inflammation so you can sleep, wake relief, and all night, every night comfort. Save 20% on most smart beds plus free home delivery when you add a base. Check out a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
You might take something for your heart. You might get support for your joints. Or even use something for your digestion. So why wouldn't you take something for the most important part of you? Your brain. People all over the country take Prevagen for their brain. In fact, Prevagen has been the #1 selling brain supplement nationwide for over 10 years. The most important supplement for the most important part of you. Try Prevagen for your brain today.
For the acute treatment of migraine with or without aura in adults, Nurtec ODT can provide relief in 2 hours, which can last up to 2 days. Don't take if allergic to Nurtec ODT. Allergic reactions can occur even days after use. Get help right away for trouble breathing, rash, swelling of face, mouth, tongue, or throat. High blood pressure and Raynaud's syndrome can occur. Get help for high blood pressure, numbness, coolness, pain, or color changes in fingers and toes. Common side effect is nausea. Ask your doctor about Nurtec ODT.
When did I call leaf filter? When I saw my gutters overflowing onto my porch.
Leaf filter is a permanent gutter solution, so you never have to worry about costly damage from clogged gutters again.
It's the easiest call you can make.
Call 833-LEAF-FILTER today or visit leaffilter.com.
Where are all the animals, Dad?
Don't know, kiddo. Just another day. It's a rare thing with someone you've been with for so long.
Let's be on here. I knew that I was going to be on RuPaul's Drag Race. I knew that. From season 1, the very first season, I sat there. I was like, oh, I'm going to be on that show. I'm going to sit right there on that show, right next to Mother, bitch. Because the spirit told me when I was 14 years old that I was going to be her friend. You know, I knew that. I knew I was going to be in movies and television. But I thought, who posted that? Tell him I said thanks. I knew I was going to be movies and television, so I didn't know how to be saying out their mouth. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I just be like, girl, what, do you really believe that? I want to ask a question, a poll question to the people that's in the comment section. Do you really think, my hair need to be recurled, it's going to get recurled. Do you really think that I'm pressed Do you really think that I'm pressed? No, I'm not. At all.
Sunday, while responding to a brush fire in Idaho. They are Battalion Chiefs John Morrison and Frank Harwood. John Morrison was 52 years old and served with the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department for 28 years before becoming chief. Frank Harwood was 42. He served 17 years, was the father of 2, and a former Army National Guard combat engineer. Another firefighter, 47-year-old Dave Tisdale, is currently recovering after 2 surgeries. We're also learning that there are new details about the suspected shooter, 20-year-old Wes Raleigh. His grandfather tells CNN that he wanted to be a firefighter himself. Former classmates say he was reclusive from his peers. One former classmate says Raleigh had a journal with concerning images of weapons and food symbols. Another telling CNN that he was, quote, verbally aggressive and recalled him drawing swastikas, saying, quote, I believe it was our freshman year. He had an English book and he would draw swastikas. We didn't take it as what he may have believed in. Authorities say Raleigh was found dead at the scene and appears to have shot himself. Joining us, Ronald is a behavioral analyst. Casey, can you tell us what stands out to you from these new details we're learning about the shooter?
Well, there are three sources that are getting some information from on the suspected shooter, and you mentioned his classmates growing up. You talked about those disturbing images. His grandfather and also some family court records from his parents' divorce around 2015. Public records that he reviewed. And, you know, the things he cited about his childhood and school, you know, you can kind of pass that off as a detached or, you know, isolated teenager, just kind of exploring. But from the divorce records, we have found that he came from a military family, that his father was in the Army, and in fact, he had lived in Germany, which may have, you know, resulted in a preoccupation with Nazism. But most recently, he had lived in Arizona and moved to Idaho. And, you know, we know that he had grown up in a dysfunctional household. His father may have had PTSD. His mother alleged domestic violence. There were always guns in the house. But then his grandfather says that he was optimistic in Idaho and to be a forest firefighter. So these things taken together kind of make you wonder his background, his childhood, his dysfunctional family, and maybe not being hired or not aspired and not gaining an occupation as a firefighter might be a contributing factor to the way this shooting took place.
You're just thinking about how investigators are trying to piece together the why. Obviously, this suspect is dead, but criminologists and investigators still are pursuing because they want to understand and deter in the future anything like this. Will they look at the online presence otherwise?
The online presence, but I think what everybody wants to know is what was happening in recent days. There's no criminal history of it was with the law. No motive, but here's what we know about fire setters. Very often they feel incredibly powerless and disengaged. And a fire setting is one of the easiest ways, I mean, even the most powerless child can strike a match and cause incredible mayhem in short order. You know, devastating damage. So we know that sometimes arsonists are volunteer firefighters or firefighter wannabes, people who have applied to become firefighters and been rejected. And one wonders, did he actually apply to become a forest firefighter? I would be very interested to know if there are any applications out there. And was he rejected, or was he feeling down on his luck and hopeless? And use a fire setting not to feel just powerful, although there's a lot of psychology there, but also to use it as a bait trap for firefighters, which he's alleged to have shot and killed 2 of. Maybe it was revenge. You know, we will find out more as we piece together his recent weeks in Idaho. And we may, you know, mass murderers are trying to make a statement, and we will find out what that statement is.
We certainly will. Of course, the family is desperate to know and understand why and what has happened here. And on the issue of motive, there's a lot of unpacking to do, a lot of investigation. It won't bring perhaps the comfort of solace to families who've lost their loved ones, but the need to know. Casey Jordan, thank you so much.
Great to be here.
Thank you all for watching. Polo Sandoval picks up CNN's coverage of the marathon voting on President Trump's huge policy bill next.
Hello, welcome to all of our viewers here in the United States watching this all around the world. I'm Polo Sandoval in New York. It's going to be a very busy hour ahead here on CNN Newsroom, including the Vote Orama. It's marching on. The U.S. Senate now 15 hours into debating and amending Donald Trump's spending bill, inching towards a final vote. Plus, why the president is heading to what his administration describes as Alligator Alcatraz, a controversial detention facility in southern Florida. And a heat wave and wildfires hitting southern Europe at this hour, with temperatures expected to peak in the coming days. And welcome to CNN Newsroom. Let's start with U.S. Senators. They are in the midst of a marathon voting session over President Donald Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill. Some live pictures right now out of Capitol Hill as the clock strikes 12. And there appears to be no sign of a final vote, at least not yet. The bill's intended purpose is to fund his domestic agenda. It's a little more complicated than that. This Vote-A-Rama session has been full of wheeling and dealing with amendments and concessions still being floated to attract enough votes for approval. President Trump spent much of his Monday on the phone with congressional leaders trying to pressure them to get the bill to his desk by his self-imposed July 4th deadline. But there are still some hurdles. Now, if the Senate approves the latest version, it will go back to the House, where there is no guarantee that lawmakers will actually agree to the changes. Let's bring in CNN U.S. national politics correspondent Eva Ken, following developments live from Washington. Eva, already as we go into midnight, what is the latest that you're hearing about where this vote is headed?
Well, Polo, the Senate has been going for more than 14 hours now, and it is what happens here in the wee hours that will determine if President Donald Trump's domestic policy agenda sinks or swings here. This is all welcome news for Democrats. They are not in power, but this is the best-case scenario, because their theory of the case is that the longer this drags out, the more of an opportunity they have to message to the American public about the problems with this legislation. The hope is that Republicans, their constituents, will put so much pressure on them that ultimately that they will walk back from some of these priorities that President Trump is trying to advance. What's also going on now, Polo, is real divides being highlighted, ideological divides within the Republican Party. You have senators like Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, deeply concerned about the impact of Medicaid cuts. But then you have members of the same Republican Party thinking that these cuts don't go far enough and are worried about the deficit essentially being blown up here. So it is going to be a long night ahead. No indication that they are going to come to a resolution here anytime soon. Polo?
No doubt a long night ahead. We're glad that you're there to follow every step of the way. Do come back to us if you see any sign of a potential vote. CNN's Eva Ken live on the Hill. Let's get some more discussion now with Caroline Feldman, a Democratic strategist and professor of critical theory and social justice, and also from Ryan Chen, who's a former policy director for Republican Mitt Romney. It's great to have you both tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, Ryan, if we could start with you from a policy perspective, as we wait for a potential vote here soon. Why shouldn't supporters of the president see this bill as a form of backtracking of what was his promise to leave Medicare untouched?
Well, I think that what you're seeing, first of all, a lot of different changes have happened over the last couple of days and weeks to the legislation, I think that fundamentally what they're looking at are the tax piece of this. That is really what they are hanging their hat on. So even though there are provisions, for example, the bill that affect the Medicaid program, which is the program that provides health insurance to lower-income Americans, really all of them, by and large, are focusing on the tax piece and what the implications will be if the tax legislation does not end up getting passed.
And on that note, on implications, Caroline, I heard earlier that the party that controls nothing is responsible for nothing. So let's talk about what Democrats in both the House and the Senate are perhaps doing right now. What do you think this could potentially mean for Democrats? Maybe even to capitalize, and certainly not to forget what could be the real-world implications for millions of Americans.
Yeah, the real-world implications are that 12 million Americans are going to lose their health insurance, according to the CBO estimate. So I'm looking, we're all concentrated on Obama and all of us political nerds there. I'm looking at what's going to happen between now and Friday, and I think the bill will pass. The question is when and in what form. But if you look past this, I do believe that the Republicans are handing the Democrats a bludgeon that they will use in the midterm elections. And it will go something along the lines of, you will reduce taxes on the wealthiest Americans, because most of this bill is going to affect the top 5%. They're getting the biggest break. You did that for the wealthiest Americans while you cut health care for poor Americans. And by the time the midterms roll around, there will be people who have died because of these cuts. I'm not being hyperbolic. The Democrats are going to find them, and they're going to put them in ads, and they're going to play this on repeat, and maybe even use Tom Tillis's comments from the Senate floor where he talks about Donald Trump breaking his promise. So I think this is a bill that will get passed, but it's really risky for Republicans heading into the midterms.
Lonnie, the initial thought of this legislation here, pairing cuts in health and food assistance, basically social programs across the board, tying that to tax cuts, which we've seen the analysis, many analysts expect it to really benefit more the higher earners. How does that potentially impact the president's base to create a politically toxic environment for him and Republican monarchy?
Well, first of all, the tax cuts that are in the bill are an extension of tax cuts that were originally passed in 2017 across the board. So if this bill doesn't pass, those taxes go up on many Americans, not just higher income Americans, Americans across the field. I think the challenge Republicans are dealing with is that they're stuck a little bit between a rock and a hard place, because they have to look at what the implications will be if the tax cuts from 2017 expire, which would affect millions of Americans negatively, would affect the economy negatively as well. But they're offsetting that, of course, against, as you know, and some analysts know as well, which is how they're paying for these tax cuts, which does create a difficult political situation. There's no question about that. So I think it is this trade-off between needing to get the tax reform done with the reality that in order to get it done in the context of budget reconciliation, the process that they're using on Capitol Hill to get this done, it creates some very tricky policy and political dynamics in this situation.
And staying with you, Lonnie, I'm wondering, looking at...
Girl, that was on me. That was on me, bitch. Literally, that was on me.
What should that tell us about the Republican Party right now? Obviously reminds us who is in charge of the Republican Party and who calls the shots.
Well, Tom Tillis has served with distinction for the last several years. He's been a senator from North Carolina who has served in a difficult state in the sense that the politics there are quite mixed. But he's managed, I think, to, by the count of most North Carolinians, do a great job in that seat. The challenge, of course, is that he is in a difficult political environment. And it's a political environment now that's really different than when he first got elected. And now he's in an environment where, as a Republican, you really can't get on the other side of President Trump. And on a number of issues, I think he's found himself at odds with the president, including on this bill that's pending before the Senate now. So it is a very challenging political environment for Senator Tillis. I think, obviously, a lot of people hold him in high regard. He's going to be a maverick now. He's going to have the opportunity, because he's unconstrained by these politics, to say what's on his mind, even if that goes counter to what the president wants, and you're already seeing something.
So essentially, if I'm hearing you right, Ron, you don't think he becomes obsolete. He very much still could be an influencer in the Washington circles.
Well, I think he is going to be somebody who we will watch. We'll watch in this vote. We'll watch as the president's term and his own term, Senator Tillis' term, concludes to see what he ends up doing. And I do think he can have influence potentially on other Republicans. But, you know, at the end of the day, President Trump is the leader of the Republican Party, and his voice is going to be the most important one for many Republicans.
And now to you, Caroline, you mentioned at the top, you're confident this will pass. What do you think that we should be expecting once it does clear the Senate to a return to the House? What are perhaps some of the concerns that certainly we'll hear from Democrats, but what do you expect to hear from across the aisle as well when it gets back in the House, on the House floor?
I think we'll hear a lot of the same concerns in the Senate, a slightly different tenor. So the House, they can lose 3 votes, which makes it really difficult to kind of balance the deficit hawks, the small group of folks who believe that the tax cuts go too far in terms of adding to the deficit. It looks somewhere between 3 and 4 trillion, depending upon which version of the bill. And also folks, moderate Republicans in the House, who think that the Medicaid cuts go too far. So we'll see a healthy debate on that. And I do think it will pass for exactly the reason that Lonnie pointed out, which is that Trump has such incredible power in the party. And I find it interesting that Elon Musk came out today and said kind of a countervailing, I'm going to primary anybody who votes for this bill. And that's what Trump is saying on the other side. And I think Trump really has so much power here, as demonstrated by Tillis stepping down and trying to reassert some of his power. And I'm not going to do this if I can't be independent. But I think almost immediately you will see Democrats messaging around this, because it's a wildly unpopular bill. It doesn't matter what poll you look at, CNN, Kaiser Family Foundation, Fox, they're all finding that about 2/3 of Americans dislike this bill, and I think Democrats will take advantage of that.
And I'll just piggyback off that last thought too, Caroline. When you look at that CNN polling, also showing how independents feel about this as well, how do you think that they are feeling about this legislative process as it continues to play out? What are their concerns?
Well, if you look at the American electorate, it's about 1/3 moderate Republicans or staunch Republicans, 1/3 Democrat, and independents are 1/3. And according to CNN's own polls, it's a 3-to-1 dislike this bill. And there are some positive things, right? Like the family tax, child tax credit will move forward, probably doubled. There's a temporary relief on taxes on tips and overtime, but that expires in 2028, but smart move. I do think, though, that these Medicaid cuts are going to hit. They're going to hit immediately, and they're going to affect people's lives in very concrete ways. And I think Lonnie's right. The Republicans are kind of in a tough position where they're extending tax cuts, so most Americans won't necessarily feel it. But boy, if you were to take it away, they would definitely feel that. So a rock in a hard place, but something that the Republican, it's going to hurt them in the midterms.
And as we're hearing from you all, we're seeing those live pictures right now from the Senate floor, including one of the roughly 5 lawmakers that have expressed some concern. We see there Senator Susan Collins from Maine right now addressing her colleagues. Again, not only her, but Rand Paul, Ron Johnson, Lisa Murkowski, Tom Tillis, of course, which we just discussed. There are plenty of concerns right now. We're going to be listening to more of what's happening there. For now, I do want to thank you, Caroline Hellman and Lanny Chen, for both of your perspectives. It's so valuable right now, as there are millions of Americans that are closely watching, and as you both agree that there's certainly high stakes here. Thank you both so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, meanwhile, we are learning new details about the deadly shooting in Idaho, and the man police say intentionally targeted firefighters in an ambush. Those details are on the way. Plus, the head of a hospital in Gaza says dozens are dead after an Israeli airstrike on a cafe. We're going to have the very latest on the aftermath and the IDF's response on the
In this country, we believe in what we're made of. Keep your eyes open. Drive.
Yeah, she said, Father, what does this mean?
We've been called to serve this great land, to help its keepers, its guardians, no matter the odds.
because we were made for this.
I can't wait to see their faces when they go on this.
It seems to me that you're open somewhere.
That is, it's for the Greeks.
Speak cowards.
Innovation changes everything.
Send it back!
With one investment, you can access the NASDAQ 100 innovators who are rethinking the world. Before investing carefully, read and consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more. Prospectus at Invesco.com.
Some things are just better at home. Our flooring experts come to you so you can compare hundreds of samples in your home. Right now, get up to 40% off, no interest for 24 months, and no money down.
Today, we went from thinking we had a healthy little boy to all of a sudden finding out that he had this super serious cancer. You never imagine yourself in that position. If you've ever had your own child, you just know how much of your heart that they have. It's definitely peace of mind to not have to worry about a bill for St. Jude. You can just focus on what really matters, which is taking care of your child.
I'm certain it's level 5. Are you for infants? I'm certain it's level 5.
Certainty matters, like the certainty of 4imprint. Your home for high-quality promotional gear, including exclusive items and brands they love. Printed perfectly and guaranteed to arrive on time. To wow your clients, nail your next event, or inspire your team, check out 4imprint.com.
4imprint for certain. Your husband company mentioned how it still deserves a $19 cleaning for your home. Your cleaner will scrub everything. Pick a date, choose your cleaner. First cleaning today.
Okay, we got 2 teams. Objectives. I'm sitting up with the atmosphere.
And never clean out clogged gutters again.
Interesting.
Steve, Rishkovsky's call is part of a shipment headed out to the Pacific any day now. He was professional thieves with money at stake, so slice of Victor walking for your work.
This Nintendo Switch sold for less than $20. Go to deal-dash.com and see how much you can use it.
New Double X Liquid Gel. Reactivates your natural government overnight. That feels new Double X Liquid Gel.
I'll get you an update now on our games with the second games of the Super Marathon. Motorama with absolutely no end in sight right now. Some live pictures at the Capitol Hill where some senators right now proposing changes to Donald Trump's massive domestic policy agenda bill. All these states still need to be voted on, so we're still a long ways out. Senate Minority Leader, Democrat Chuck Schumer, is meeting Republicans because the bill is secret negotiation. So far, Republicans have repealed new taxes on renewable energy and have on expensive energy, which would leave maybe 12 million more Americans with the President Trump 95 on Earth.
Looks like you're almost at the condo ship. Get on board and climb the stack and access the container with the card. Bring the car to my people and we'll get it out of the country. Look out for other people on the ship. You don't want to start a fight with them until you have to. The car's in the locked container at the top of the stack.
Countries are still negotiating.
We have countries that are negotiating in good faith, but they have to be aware that if we can get across the line because they are being recalcitrant, then we could bring back to the April 2nd levels.
And meanwhile, President Trump complained about Japan closing its market to U.S. rice, warning that he will be sending Tokyo a letter on higher tariffs on the nation. Except that claim isn't true. According to census data, Japan actually bought close to $300 million worth of American rice last year. Stories developing at this hour. The man accused of fatally stabbing 4 University Idaho students in their apartment back in 2022. He accepted a plea deal to avoid trial. With that deal, 30-year-old Brian Hilberger, who previously pleaded now guilty, pled not guilty to 4 counts of murder. That's right at an end to years-long legal proceedings against him. In exchange, prosecutors have agreed not to pursue the death penalty. However, not everybody's pleased with this. In a Facebook post, one of the victims' family said they were furious at the state of Idaho and described the announcement of the plea deal as very unexpected. This case is expected to be back in court Wednesday. The suspect in deadly ambush on firefighters who responded to a brush fire in the city of Coeur d'Alene. 20-year-old West Road refused to man the police that opened fire before putting the gun on himself. Things was watched, but it was details on the shooting. Firefighters who were still.
On a routine brush fire pull Sunday afternoon. Talking to the guy in the street also got authorities say by 20-year-old West Raleigh was told the firefighters when they first arrived on scene.
Here's some of the social media postings that were recently removed.
An Instagram story of the suspect apparently armed camouflage set to assault.
This was a total effort. These firefighters were not untrained. We did have reports that he was shooting at first responders via a tree.
2 firefighters killed, a 3rd injured, fighting for his life.
So friends, thankful to you for that. We had a lot of very funny.
For hours, around 300 law enforcement personnel hunted the gunman, or gunmen. They didn't know which. Shots were fired.
We had a cell phone application. We honed in on that cell phone, and we saw that there was a male appeared to be deceased with a weapon nearby.
Authorities now believe the suspect died by suicide. His grandfather told CNN he wanted to be a fireman. He was doing tree work. He wanted to be a fireman in the forest.
We don't know if there's a nexus to that desire or what happened.
Coeur d'Alene now in mourning, paying tribute to 2 of their own killed in what city leaders are calling steps. And we now have the names of the men killed. Frank Harwood, 42 years old, married with a couple of kids. He was the foreign rescue chief for Kootenai County. Also killed John Morrison, who was a battalion chief with the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department. Injured, an engineer with that same department gave his death. His death is undergone 2 surgeries and we're told he's still in critical condition now. The suspect's family is now cooperating with officials. They said their heartfelt condolences to all impacted and said, quote, "We do not understand why this happened." Nick Wolf, CNN, Los Angeles.
Focusing on new developments in the war in Gaza, the IDF is now reorganizing access to Gaza aid sites to, quote, minimize friction with the population. The Palestinian Health Ministry said that more than 500 people have been killed as they approached aid sites or trucks in the past month alone. On Friday, the UN Secretary General demanded putting stops. Let's never be a desk. A report from Alexis Rose, longest-running newspaper, says the soldiers have acknowledged firing on unarmed Palestinians who were waiting for aid, claiming that they were ordered to do it. The idea is from an hospital official in Gaza said this 40 people killed in an Israeli airstrike that hit a busted seaside cafe. It offered internet, making it a very popular location for students as well as the life. We're seeing an Israeli diner.
devastated, especially deadly, by a strike on the in Gaza City. The target was a seaside cafe where 41 people were killed, 75 injured, according to the director of Al-Shifa Hospital. We can see in videos from the scene thick black smoke rising from the site of this airstrike. But then once you get on the ground, the aftermath of this strike, you can see how bustling this cafe must have been in the moments before the strike. Because there are victims all over the place, broken chairs and tables, in what was clearly a bustling cafe where people would actually come to try and get access to the internet. This made it a spot of cafe. Journalists and others trying to access the internet in Gaza, where internet access has been so spotty. As the director of the hospital, saying that the majority of the population were in women and children. We do know that Bill was a journalist, freelancer, according to the Hamas-controlled government office. That makes him killed by the Israeli military since the war in Gaza. As these airstrikes are continuing unabated in Gaza, there is discussion at very high levels in the Israeli government right now about the potential for a ceasefire and hostage release deal. All of this coming in the wake of that ceasefire deal between Israel and Iran and the 12 days of military conflict between those two nations, where we saw a series of stunning military successes for the Israeli military. And in the wake of that, the Israeli Prime Minister is signaling there is a window of opportunity to lead to a ceasefire in Gaza and a deal to release the hostages. And for the first time, the Prime Minister is talking about the need to secure the release of the hostages as a priority, whereas as recently as a few weeks ago, he was making clear that defeating Hamas was the number one objective. He now seems to be signaling that releasing the hostages is the priority. And so we will see. Clearly, there is disagreement within the Israeli government, with right-wing allies of the Prime Minister advocating for intensifying the war in Gaza. The Israeli military seems to be signaling that but now you gotta wait until the other teams deliver the schedule. Let's just hope they do it, because it's
Jeremy Dunn, CNN, Tel Aviv. I mean, while the Israeli military tells CNN that it, quote, struck several Hamas terrorists in the northern Gaza Strip on Monday, and that this incident is under review. Well, still ahead, or actually I should say that there are still new images that are now showing ongoing work at Iran's Fordo nuclear enrichment sites just over a week after the U.S. bombed the facility with so-called bunker-busting bombs. And the images from overhead here appear to show some vehicles, cranes, also even some personnel that appear to be working near the ventilation shafts which were struck by the bombs last weekend. Well, meanwhile, Iranian officials say that Israeli strikes in early June killed 935 people, and that includes 30 children. Officials did not clarify how many of those facilities were military personnel or nuclear scientists. Israel's Prime Minister's office says Iran's retaliatory attacks during the 12-day conflict killed 28 people. All right, optimism from the White House. President Trump and his team expecting his domestic policy will pass eventually. And this despite a marathon voting session that's still ongoing. Those details are on the way.
Something went on at Live Aid that's still with us.
Live Aid with rock and roll took on the world. July 13th on CNN.
Arthritis causes pain in your joints. Unlike fillers, Voltaren gel is applied to the site of pain, delivering deep through the skin to the joint, reducing intense pain caused by inflammation so you can move more freely. Voltaren, clinically proven, long-lasting arthritis pain relief. To all those who never give a second thought, the first ones have. Thank you. ServPro, proud supporter of our nation's first responders.
When you need a lift, you could use a big financial friend. Your BFF, Experian. strong enough to help you push past financial obstacles. So even when you have a big expense, you have new solutions that can make a big difference. Well, you do have that big financial friend, wherever your journey takes you.
In a Jurassic World, every Jeep vehicle is Jurassic rated. Experience open air freedom, unsurpassed stability, no matter what it is. Or a third row to fit in all the adventure. Jeep, Jurassic World Rebirth.
Right now with Employee Pricing Plus, purchase and get an average of $7,900 below MSRP on select 2025 Jeep Wrangler gas models in stock. Hurry, this great offer will become extinct June 30th.
In a healthy gut garden, balance is key. Benefiber's plant-based prebiotic fiber gently nourishes the gut, working with your body to help you flourish. Grow it feels good with Benefiber. And for 6 grams of fiber with triple skin support, try new Benefiber Superfruit.
Anyone can have a site that uses the same license in a day, having it go from source to your. Give me a style here. What
I love it. What does this mean?
If it was fitting, there's no subscription. If I look good, I feel good. And Stitch Fix does that for me.
Stitch Fix, online personal styling for everyone.
In this family, there has to be drama, chaos, competition. Wow. That's what makes us us.
Millionaire Boys Club is Sunday, July 13th on CNN.
And we'll go back to CNN Newsroom. I'm Polo Senegal in New York. Let's take a look at some of today's top stories. U.S. senators, they are more than 15 hours into discussions on amendments to President Trump's domestic agenda bill. Republicans, they are still unsure. Look, they're still on unsure footing with several holdouts still in their party. They face a very tight turnaround if they want to meet the president's deadline on Friday. President Donald Trump ramping up pressure on the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates and intensifying attacks against Chair Jerome Powell, who he is accusing of costing the U.S., quote, a fortune in a handwritten note that he sent to the Feds. The U.S. president also demanded Powell cut rates, quote, by a lot. And more than 50,000 people in Turkey have evacuated to safety zones after 263 forest fires broke out over the weekend across the country. In fact, 4 of them, they're still burning at this hour. A major heat wave has sent temperatures soaring. Well, Donald Trump is pressuring Republican lawmakers to pass a sweeping domestic policy bill in time for him to sign it in July. But as the Senate continues to vote on amendments at this hour, it's still not clear when a final vote will actually happen. CNN's Kristen Holmes in touch with White House officials. She's got more from Washington.
President Trump and his team say that they are still optimistic that this bill is going to get passed. I spoke to one White House official who said that they like their odds at this time. Despite the fact this is continuing to go on, we're not really quite sure where it's going to end up. The White House, they seem pretty confident. And I spoke to a number of administration officials who say this has been a real full court press. You have had not only President Trump on the phone with various senators, congressional leadership, but you've also had members of the administration, allies of President Trump's. Anyone who has a relationship with any senator, they are calling them, they are pushing them. And that's really because this is such an important part of President Trump's legacy, his team, and he believed that this is going to be what really cements that legacy moving forward. Now, we heard from the press secretary, Karen Levin, talking about this. Here's what she said.
Republicans need to stay tough and unified during the home stretch, and we are counting on them to get the job done. The president is very well aware that this bill needs to not only pass out of the Senate, but it needs to go back to the House, and we need the full weight of the Republican conference to get behind this bill, and we expect them to, and we are confident that they will.
Now, you can hear her expressing confidence there, but also saying that Republicans needed to stick together and really try to work this through, stay tough. Now, perhaps part of the reason I think the White House has confidence in this hour is because of what we've seen from President Trump. We saw him on social media eventually kind of leveling some veiled threats at people who might try to stop this bill from being passed, saying senators who are cutting costs, you need to be careful. Those who still have to be re-elected. Of course, we saw him over the weekend essentially saying that he was primary North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis, who voted against the bill. Tom Tillis shortly afterwards saying that he was going to retire anyway. But this is obviously going to be something that's on these senators' minds as they are working through this process. Again, we will be checking into the White House as this vote progresses to see if anything changes. But right now, they are feeling confident that they still like their odds. Kristen Holmes, CNN, the White House.
And the White House says that Donald Trump will be attending the opening of what he calls Alligator Alcatraz in the hours ahead. That name as evocative, that is controversial. This immigrant detention facility, it is being built in the Florida Everglades. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying the facility will have just one road in and one road leading out. And that the only way out is on a one-way flight, she says. She touts what she calls as the isolated nature of the facility that, quote, is surrounded by dangerous wildlife and unforbidden terrain. Here's what President Trump's border guards on Pullman also had to say.
So you can wait for the opening with what earnings in there so we can.
How many people do
Tax off the government samples, making them silly.
What kind of migrants you gonna
That's
put
why
in?
we need a big, beautiful bill to get more detention there. So thank God that DeSantis came forward so quickly. We got to get the big, beautiful bill passed and they buy more beds. The more beds we have, the more bad guys we have, the more people we
Is
get.
it going to decide who goes there?
You're in the country legally, got a problem.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Here and there, it all leads back to that ongoing legislation. We'll be right back with much more news. Don't go anywhere.
July 4th, join CNN for a special holiday celebration with musical performances and fireworks. The 4th in America, live July 4th at 7 on CNN.
New Gain Tango Scent Boosters. With two irresistible scents coming together, you can't help but dance. Oh, wow. That's fresh. New Gain Tango Scent Boosters. More scent, more joy.
I told myself I was okay with my moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis symptoms.
With my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. But just okay isn't okay.
And I was done settling.
If you still have symptoms after trying Humira, Rinvoq works differently. Rinvoq is a once-daily pill from the makers of Humira that can rapidly relieve joint pain, stiffness, and swelling as fast as 2 weeks for some. And even at the 3-year mark, many people felt this relief. Rinvoq can stop joint damage, and in PSA, it leaves skin clear or almost clear.
Rinvoq can lower ability to fight infections. Before treatment, test for TB and do blood work. Serious infections, blood clots, some fatal. Cancers including lymphoma and skin, serious allergic reactions, GI tears, death, heart attack, and stroke occur. CV event risk increases in age 50 plus with a heart disease risk factor. Tell your doctor if you've had these events: infection, Hep B or C, smoked, are pregnant, or planning. Don't take if allergic or have an infection.
Ask your rheumatologist if switching to Rinvoq is right for you.
And take that with yours. Okay, take your time. I'm here with Chris Cunahan of Leaf Filter. What is the problem with the clogged gutter?
Rotten fascia, rotten soffit, mildew, mold in the attic.
So how can Leaf Filter fix this problem?
So the first thing we're going to do is professionally clean out all your gutters, realign them, install our leaf filter system that allows nothing but water. Just give us a call, set up an appointment. We'll come out and give you a free gutter inspection. To schedule your free inspection, call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
First lost. Don't can't believe this thing is yours. No. Navy Federal Credit Union gave us such an affordable car loan. The rest was easy. Yeah, I can't imagine why
Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission.
Own a design studio. Win a really big design contract.
Realize you're more the creative type than a finance type.
Realize you got this. Use QuickBooks to get your cash flow flowing. Get live expert assistance to maximize your tax savings.
With that.
Get back to doing what you love. Manage and grow your business all in one place. Intuit QuickBooks. Your way to money.
I'm Valeria Leon in Mexico City, and this is CNN.
Welcome back. The trusts you're trying to see cool right now. Authorities across Europe are issuing warnings amid a heat wave and also wildfires. Temperatures now topping 40 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit in places like Portugal, Spain, and France. I want to go now to Al Goodman, who shows us what people are trying to stay cool.
Apocalyptic scenes in Izmir, Turkey, as wildfires forced residents to flee for their lives. Aid workers carried an elderly man to safety just moments before flames swallowed his home. A harrowing escape in searing summer heat. Outside Madrid, firefighters battled a late-night blaze, another front in a heat wave stretching from Greece to Spain and beyond. Across Europe, an early and unforgiving summer scorcher is gripping the continent. In parts of Spain, official temperatures soared above 46 degrees Celsius, well over 114 degrees Fahrenheit, leaving people and animals alike scrambling for any patch of shade or drop of water. Spain's National Weather Agency says it's the hottest June since records began 60 years ago. The afternoon sun is piercing, and overnight the temperatures don't fall enough to really cool things down. In Seville, residents say it felt like the city itself was melting.
It's awful. It makes me collapse. We need to look for shade constantly, air conditioning if we have it, and these devices keep ringing with heat warnings. I feel terrible about it. I can't sleep well and have insomnia. I also get heat strokes. I stop eating and I just can't focus.
Some found refuge at the beach. Others trudged on to visit Europe's monuments, despite the stifling heat. In Athens, the government opened air-conditioned community centers and set up hotlines for medical help as the mercury climbed relentlessly. In Hungary, even the elephants at the Budapest Zoo needed cold showers to stay cool, with temperatures nearing 39 degrees Celsius.
It's a hot day, gonna need it.
And in Britain, a country hardly known for sizzling summers, tennis fans at Wimbledon braved unusually high temperatures on opening day. Scientists warned that human-induced climate change is fueling these extreme heat events, making them more frequent, more intense, and harder to predict. And with the heat showing no sign of letting up, Europe braces for more scorching days ahead, and with them, the very real threat of new extremes. Al Goodman, CNN, Madrid.
And with that, I'm Polo Sandoval in New York. World Sport is next for our international viewers. You're watching in North America. I'll be right back with much more after the break.
For nearly 50 years, Harbor Freight has been a reliable source for the widest variety of tools at affordable prices. And our tools keep getting better with time. Better performance, better durability, and better value. That's been our focus since day one, and we're not going to stop now. Come on in and see for yourself. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Who's coming in the doorway?
My daughter is being treated for leukemia. I hope that she lives a long, great, happy life, and that she will never forget how Mom and Daddy love her. St. Jude, and this is what's keeping my baby alive. Join the battle to save lives by supporting St. Jude's Research Hospital. For just $19 a month, you'll help us continue the life research and treatment for these kids now and in the future.
Cancer makes me feel angry, like I'm not in the feel on the outside, just the inside I'm angry at.
When your kid is hurting and there's nothing you can do about it, that's the worst feeling in the world.
1 in 5 children diagnosed with cancer in the U.S. will not survive.
Those that donate to St. Jude, I hope that you will continue to give. They have done so much for me, and I'm happy. Join with your debit or credent card now, and we'll send you this St. Jude t-shirt that you can proudly wear.
Están salvando vidas. Y la vida de mi hija es una de ellas.
You ready to go have some fun?
When we came here, we didn't know what tomorrow would hold. St. Jude showed us that tomorrow there's hope for our little girl to survive.
Let's cure childhood cancer together. Please donate now.
Got pretty much everything in here. Keep your eyes open.
Summer is here, and Wayfair's big 4th of July clearance is on now. It's the talk of the neighborhood. Right now through July 6th, get up to 70% off everything home, so you can celebrate all summer long. Plus, score amazing surprise flash deals for just 24 hours, and get it all with fast shipping straight to your door. Save up to 70% off Wayfair's 4th of July clearance, now through July 6th. And kickstart your 4th of July weekend with unbeatable savings.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Closed captioning sponsored by an evening with Nobel Prize winner Lech Walesa. Register now.
Join Lech Walesa, Nobel Peace Prize winner and one of the world's greatest thinkers, on his first ever grand lecture tour across North America. Register now at historyexplorer.com.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Sandoval, New York. Welcome back to CNN's live coverage as we keep a very close eye on the U.S. Senate floor as they continue with their so-called vote Obama. Live images right now out of Capitol Hill show legislators still Republicans essentially trying to work with Democrats, announcing new amendments to Donald Trump's sweeping domestic policy bill. As it stands now, the multi-trillion-dollar Trump bill will lower federal taxes. It's supposed to pour more money into the Pentagon, as well as Trump's border crackdown efforts, and dramatically shrink safety net programs, including Medicaid. And that is certainly one of the issues that's getting a lot of attention, especially for President Trump's base, because officials estimating that it will add also roughly $3.3 trillion to the deficit over the next decade. So we're certainly going to continue to watch that and bring you any potential sign of a possible vote out of Washington. Meanwhile, after a recent Supreme Court ruling, the fight against President Trump's effort to ban birthright citizenship, it has entered a new stage, and it seems to have raised more questions than answers. CNN's Paula Reed has the latest developments in a federal lawsuit seeking to block Trump's executive order.
The hearings on Monday were significant because this is the first time we've heard judges weighing in on that historic Supreme Court ruling Friday, limiting the power that judges have to block a policy for the entire country. In many ways, that decision was a lawyer full employment act because it left open so many questions that now need to be decided by lower courts, like, all right, what now becomes of President Trump's executive order limiting birthright citizenship? Who can challenge it? And, for example, the Supreme Court said that class action lawsuits may be one way to block these policies, with the Justice Department making it clear on Monday that they intend to oppose those kinds of legal maneuvers. Now, in Maryland, we heard from lawyers representing clients and the sort of the anguish that they described that these clients are facing in the wake of all of this uncertainty. One lawyer described a client as, quote, being afraid of bringing more life into this world, and described the incredible stress, anxiety, and fear that their plaintiffs are experiencing as this question remains open of who exactly will be a citizen at the end of the month. Now, the Supreme Court put a hold on its ruling for 30 days, if I say the end of the month. At that time, the Supreme Court appears in some form to be letting this executive order go forward. So one of the questions that this judge really wanted to know was, when will they start deporting babies once this goes into effect? Now, the Justice Department gave an answer that wasn't very clear. A lawyer for the Justice Department saying, my understanding is that the executive order will not be operative for 30 days. Is that your understanding or the position of the United States? The lawyer just said, it's my understanding. I can confirm that, but I have a high degree of confidence in that understanding. So this is a really big question, and the Justice Department could not give a clear answer. So the judge in Maryland demanding more clarification on that question. And it's just an example of how much more still needs to be worked out in and around this executive order. All the confusion about who exactly will be a citizen at the end of this month, but this is the kind of confusion that the Supreme Court invited with this decision. Paula Reed, CNN, Washington.
And President Trump, he's keeping pressure on the Federal Reserve, demanding ultra-low interest rates again. The U.S. president on Monday slamming Chair Jerome Powell and the central bank's board of governors, saying that they, quote, should be ashamed of themselves. Words from the president there. The White House press secretary said that Trump sent a chart ranking key interest rates from around the world in a handwritten note to the Fed. And in it, he accused Powell of costing the U.S., quote, a fortune, and demanded he cut rates by, quote, a lot. Now, one reason the Fed hasn't made that move is due to the major policy shifts since Trump took office and the possible effects on the economy. President Trump says that he does have a buyer for the popular social media app TikTok, coming as the company faces a September deadline before being banned in the United States. Here's CNN's Claire Duffy with the latest on that.
Yeah, after months of speculation about who could buy TikTok, we may soon finally be getting an answer. These latest comments from President Trump, of course, come months after the law that requires TikTok's parent company ByteDance to sell off the app's U.S. operations or face a ban in the United States. Months after that law technically went into effect back in January, President Trump has now delayed enforcement of that ban 3 separate times. The current deadline for TikTok to find a new owner
Let me
is
think.
September 17th.
Hey, what's up? What's going on? That's a cute dress. It really is. Like, it really is a nice dress. Like, it's super cute. And it was $14.
Famous investor Kevin O'Leary to the AI firm Perplexity. But I think the most likely buyer in this case is that we will see a return.
So what's going on? Shh. Let me think.
Platform back in April. That deal would have seen private equity firms, venture capital firms, and tech companies join
How are you
together to create
doing?
a new
I'm doing fantastic. I'm on vacation. I'm gaming. I'm going on vacation. Nothing. Just woke up. Damn, where you from? Just waking up. You going to bed.
One of you is going to intercept the transport, make sure it doesn't get there. 2 of you are going to be taking our prison bus and making your way into the facility in its place. You'll be playing inmate and guard. Stay in character as long as it's useful, then make your way to the rooftops. I'll get on the radio and give you a path to the prof. Meanwhile, the pilot will have picked up the plane and be waiting on the evac in the air. Whoever stole the bus would be bypassed.
Spain. Oh, wow. You're over there. Like, you're from way over there.
Another fascinating story to share with you.
Well, I'm in America, if you couldn't tell.
Professor Reshkovsky takes control of the plane. The 3
Don't hold that against me.
take a jump. The professor's out of U.S. airspace and reunited with his precious car. Simple. Should be the easiest money you'll ever
I'm from
make.
far, far away. I know. You, like, way over there. Are y'all across the pond, or is that just for England? Or does that include Europe, too?
Grace Price and Lexi Berchalis, with a little assist from Lexi's
But
mom,
yeah, I'm gaming.
are filming
So
content for their new social media brand. You like it?
I am playing GTA Online with a bunch of randoms.
On how to live healthy in a world where we're told lies about our bodies. Please join the Maha Girls movement today. Maha is for Make America Healthy Again, the tagline RFK Jr. coined last year. The girls are trying to bring the movement to a younger demographic. And they have no added sugar or seed oils. How old are you guys? 19. We're both 19. Girls our age are looking for answers. They have this opportunity to take ownership of their health, or they're going to fall victim to big pharma and big food. And I was like, what if we actually did a girl group, but it's for
So how are things in Spain right now?
from her grocery store videos, which have landed her millions of views and over 160,000 Instagram followers. Cookies, buy or buy? They met up in Austin last month at the launch of a wellness foundation for college students.
If you all have not met the Maha Girls,
Hot. Yeah, I heard y'all are having it like all of Europe is having like a heat wave or something. So yeah. Like what makes it so hot? I'm just curious. Like, because I live in America, it's always hot where I live. So Spain is the new Africa. Wait, what do you mean? Spain is the new Africa?
And longtime RFK
Like,
ally Del
it's that hot? Like what?
We're starting a revolution, and we're going to change the world.
Price was already in the Maha inner circle. She's grammed from the inauguration, the Senate, and the White House.
It's kind of wild. You have the ear of some of the people who are like making the biggest decisions for the whole country.
I love it. Spain is the new Africa.
At
Oh
the
my
White House
God.
and all of these different events, it's all adults. We're the only 19-year-olds there. We literally are. So what's the deal with that? Why is this not cool? Why is there not a Coachella for healthy food?
Much of the guidance the girls share is backed by widely accepted science. Numerous studies have linked ultra-processed foods to diseases and health issues. But some Maha talking points,
So this toothpaste is not only fluoride and paraben-free,
like the dangers of fluoride and seed oils, are less clear-cut and have sparked pushback from the mainstream medical community. Neither teen is a medical professional. Price self-produced a documentary about cancer, and Verchalis is a certified health coach.
People will be like, oh, are we really supposed to listen to this 19-year-old? And I'm not trying to claim any credentials. I'm just trying to bring you along with me on my learning journey. Everyone is so individual. So I think that everyone should take that information, do your own self-experimenting, and see what works for you. Where do you guys...
The other day we reached 120 Fahrenheit.
It's about 5 or 6 years ago.
What? Yeah, I don't know how hot that is.
Studies in plain sight that you can find on Google.
Because we do 9 Fahrenheit.
To find a
So,
link to this article. Like the information is there on the internet. But
yeah, we do Celsius.
how do you deal with misinformation? We are the number one BS.
I'm like, wait, hold on, what do we do? I forgot what we do. I'm like, wait, what do we do here? Can I see the full outfit? Yeah, when I stand up.
The White House released its official Maha report in May, laying out the administration's
It's just like, you know, typical short dress.
been discovered in the report, including studies that had been misrepresented or did not exist. The White House chalked up the issues to, quote, minor citation and formatting errors, and has since updated the report. We reached out to the girls, but they did not respond.
This is not a political issue. We're here because our generation is the number one target.
How short? Like, I guess in between, like, the knees and
It is unfortunate that it's so associated.
whatever you call, like, in between the knees, I guess.
Given voices to people in the health space, they haven't been a part of the mainstream health message. And it makes no sense to not use that incredible traction in our own branding.
Yeah, I guess that's what it's called. I'm like, wait, what do you call this?
Thank you for watching tonight. This is my Polish Central New York. We'll be right back after this break with more of your headlines, including...
I have other names, but I cannot type that here. Yeah, I wouldn't want you to get banned, so... Yeah, but I get what you're saying, so... I was gonna just say bottom half. Like, that's what I was gonna just say, like bottom half. So...
Roads around the world, celebrities on CNN.
I guess that's what that emoji means.
When you need a lift, you could use a big financial friend. Your BFF, Experian. Strong enough to help you push past financial obstacles. So even when you have a big expense, you have new solutions that can make a big difference. well, you do have that big financial friend, wherever your journey takes you. I like things personalized, like my coffee. So when my doctor prescribed Vyvgart Hytrulo self-injection for my generalized myasthenia gravis, we personalized my treatment goals. Vyvgart Hytrulo can improve daily abilities and reduce muscle weakness.
It's my treatment, my way.
Vidya Hytrulo for Weekend Away Steve.
It's travel ready and can go where I go.
Anyway, I'm gonna go get ready for the day. Have a beautiful day over there. Thank you. Have fun over there today. Try to stay cool and stay hydrated. That's important. You gotta drink water when it's hot.
Kidney problems. Most common side effects include respiratory and urinary tract infections, headache, and injection site reactions.
Oh wow, it's midnight here. I didn't realize it was that late here.
That's treatment? My way. Ask your neurologist about Vyvgart Hytrulo.
First Washington bought it. Still can't believe this thing is yours. No. Navy Federal Credit Union gave me such an affordable car loan. The rest was easy. I mean, I can't imagine what I'm doing now.
Navy Federal Credit Union. Our members are the mission.
Own a design studio. Win a really big design contract. Realize you're more the creative type than a finance type. Realize you got this. Use QuickBooks to get your cash flow flowing. Get live expert assistance to maximize your tax savings. Get back to doing what you love. Manage and grow your business all in one place. Intuit QuickBooks. Your way to money.
Celebrate the 4th in America, live July 4th at 7 on CNN.
Hello and welcome to all of our viewers joining us in the United States and all around the world. I'm Polo Sandoval coming to you live from New York, and ahead here on CNN Newsroom, that Votorama, it marches on as it's 1 in the morning. I speak to a doctor in this room about the aftermath. And also, you probably felt it, a heat wave and maybe even some wildfires in southern Europe. The temperature is expected to peak Tuesday and Wednesday. Welcome to CNN Newsroom. As the U.S. Senators, they are working late into the night on amendments to President Donald Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill, and there appears to be no sign of any potential vote, at least not a final one anytime soon. The bill's intended purpose is to fund his domestic agenda, but this Votorama session has been full of wheeling and dealing with changes still being floated to attract enough votes for a commission. President Trump spent much of Monday on the phone with congressional leaders, pressuring them to get the bill to his desk by his self-imposed July 4th deadline. But there are still some hurdles. Now, if the Senate approves the latest version, it will still go back to the House of Representatives. And there is no guarantee that lawmakers will agree to the changes that are made in the Senate. Let's go now to CNN's U.S. national politics correspondent, Eva McCann, following developments live from Washington. Eva, we spoke to you last hour, no sign of a vote. Has that changed?
Not as yet, Polo. You know, this has been going now for more than 14 hours. And what I can tell you is that it is welcome news to Senate Democrats. They are not in power. But their theory of the case is that the longer this drags out, the more opportunity they have to message directly to the American public about the problems that they view with this bill, and then put pressure on Republicans to maybe walk away from President Donald Trump's domestic policy agenda. It is in the wee hours here that this agenda will either sink or swim. And what this entire episode is also revealing are the deep divides within the Republican Party, the ideological divides. You have Senate Republicans like Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, that are really concerned about the cuts to Medicaid, about the cuts to food stamps. And then in the very same party, you have Republicans that believe that the cuts don't go far enough and are worried about the implications of exploding the deficit under a Republican president. And so that is why you see this effort stall tonight. But I can tell you that Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is a bit gleeful at the moment because he believes that this is a good sign that Republicans are having such a hard time ultimately advancing this bill. And then, of course, Polo, after, or if it does in fact advance out of this chamber, it has to go to the lower chamber, to the House, where Republicans have to agree as well. So no sign as yet that the vote will continue at this hour. It looks like they have a long way to go. Polo?
No doubt, Democrats keeping a very close eye on this United States. You always keep your finger on the pulse of voters. What is your sense, really, for average Americans? What are the concerns? Some of them stay up late watching their representatives debate these various issues, these various amendments. What do you think is really keeping them up at night when it comes to a majority of Americans?
Yeah, so many millions of Americans rely on these benefits. So especially Democratic voters who I speak to who are well aware of the potential for cuts here are very, very nervous. They are putting a lot of pressure on Democratic leadership to really stand up for them in this moment, even at the expense maybe of being called theatrical or performative. They want them to do all that they possibly can to push back against this. But it won't only impact Democratic voters, even though they are the most vocal in this moment, Polo. It is going to be voters in Republican states as well. And so that is why this potentially could be so politically challenging for all the members involved.
And on that point, you have so many supporters of the president. So they are recipients of these kinds of social benefits who risk the Republican Party essentially taking an axe to their benefits. So no question how this would play out in the next year and a half. Hard to believe that the midterms will eventually be around the corner. Even while I have you, if I could, for Democrats, just going back to your earlier point about the minority leader really watching this closely, how can they capitalize on this opportunity ahead of those midterms? What are Democrats really taking note of tonight?
Well, they already are. There are daily demonstrations up here with people from all over the country basically testifying, giving their testimony of how these, how Medicare, these services are so important for the viability of their families. And Democrats are hoping by deploying these personal stories, these personal narratives, that it sways the public conversation and public debate, and that people nationwide have a real understanding of the potential impact here, even if it is ultimately not enough to sway the outcome.
Yeah, no question. It is so incredibly complicated. For average Americans, most would not go through every single one of those 1,000 pages, but we're glad that you're there. You are closely following this right now. Do come back to us if you get any sense that there is a potential vote on the horizon. We know you'll be following that very closely. Appreciate you. Well, meanwhile, Donald Trump, he has been pressuring Republican lawmakers to pass that sweeping domestic policy bill in time for him to sign it by the 4th of July. I want to go now to CNN's Kristen Holmes with more details from Washington.
President Trump and his team say that they are still optimistic that this bill is going to get passed. I spoke to one White House official who said that they like their odds at this time, despite the fact that this is continuing to go on. We're not really quite sure where it's going to end up. The White House, they seem pretty confident. And I spoke to a number of administration officials who say this has been a real full court press. You have had not only President Trump on the phone with various senators, congressional leadership, but you've also had members of the administration, allies of President Trump. Anyone who has a relationship with any senator, they are calling them, they are pushing them. And that's really because this is such an important part of President Trump's legacy. His team and he believe that this is going to really cement that legacy moving forward. And we heard from the press secretary, Karen Levin, talking about this. Here's what she said.
Republicans need to stay tough and unified during the home stretch. and we are counting on them to get the job done. The president is very well aware that this bill needs to not only pass out of the Senate, but it needs to go back to the House, and we need the full weight of the Republican conference to get behind this bill, and we expect them to, and we are confident that they will.
Now, you can hear her expressing confidence there, but also saying that Republicans need to stick together and really try to work this through, stay tough. Now, perhaps part of the reason that the White House has confidence in this hour is because of what we've seen from President Trump. We saw him on social media essentially kind of leveling some veiled threats at people who might try to stop this bill from being passed, saying, senators who are cutting costs, you need to be careful, don't go too crazy, you still have to be re-elected. Of course, we saw him over the weekend essentially saying that he would primary North Carolina Senator Tom Tillis, who voted against the bill. Tom Tillis shortly afterwards saying that he was going to retire anyway. But this is obviously going to be something that's on these senators' minds as they are working through this process. Again, we will be checking in with the White House as this vote progresses to see if anything changes. But right now, they are feeling confident that they still like their odds. Mr. Holmes, CNN, the White House.
I'll get you to a developing story now out of Idaho, where they've now identified the suspect in the deadly ambush this weekend on firefighters who responded to a brush fire in the city of Coeur d'Alene on Sunday. 20-year-old Wes Foley now believed to have opened fire before turning the gun on himself. Let's get the latest now from CNN's studio, Marcus Jones.
Smoke rising from the forest in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. A call prompting firefighters and then police to rush into action.
Right now, there's no shooters on. I'm heading down behind Battalion 1's rig. It's clear to me that this fire was then entered to draw us in.
The gunman, now identified as 20-year-old Wes Rowley, according to the sheriff, spoke to first responders, then used a shotgun to kill 2 firefighters and seriously injure another.
We do know that he did contact the firefighters when they came on scene, and there was a discussion.
After the ambush, law enforcement said they exchanged fire for 90 minutes.
We've got 2 unresponsive battalions. She's gunshot wounds, multiple gunshot wounds.
Bullets, they say, seem to be coming from multiple directions, leading law enforcement to believe they were engaging with more than one gunman. In the end, a single suspect was found dead with a firearm near his body.
It appears that he shot himself. We believe that he engaged weapons from the tree. Yesterday was one of the most absolute darkest days.
Coeur d'Alene Battalion Chief John Morrison and Kootenai County Fire and Rescue Battalion Chief Frank Harwood died in the attack.
Chief Harwood is married, has 2 children. He's also a former Army National Guard combat student for the veteran as well. Battalion Chief John Morrison sustained fatal gunshot wounds yesterday and died from that. He has served the city of Coeur d'Alene and its community for over 28 years.
Another firefighter is still in critical condition. Firefighter Ben Hector got an all-hands page to come in after the shootings. Like many here, he knows the victims well.
These were your guys.
The chief is my chief. We know each other well. My friend in the hospital, he owns a really cool Christmas tree farm. My son's been on to work for him. We're friends.
Today, he's collecting donations with other volunteers for the first responders who are still fighting this fire.
We have seen the heartache of losing an officer in the line of duty, and your hope is that it never happens again. So to have this happen with fire is awful.
It's shocking, for sure.
Does it change the way that you see your community or the world you do?
No, that's an outlier. That's not the people here. It doesn't change anything. There's still just work to do. You don't get time off because it was a bad day.
Such resilience from the firefighters of this community who continue to show up to fight the blazes. Just behind me here, these roads still closed off as they are fighting this fire, trying to contain it. But we are also learning more details about this shooter, Wes Rowley, who did not have a criminal record, authorities said, although they did have some interactions with him on the law enforcement side. He was believed to be living out of his vehicle, a vehicle that authorities then had to push out of a ravine as they were exchanging fire with him, hoping that he could not make it back and run away from CNN, also spoke to his grandfather, who said that his grandson actually wanted to be a firefighter. He had been working as an air arborist to figure out his career path, but that was his aspiration himself, to one day become a firefighter. Julia Vargas-Jones, CNN, for the link.
And still ahead, in the latest developments in Israel's war in Gaza. We're going to hear from a doctor who says Gaza's health system is non-existent.
Neurologic itch was a growing problem for me and my human. Then the vet gave me Apoquel. It works at the source and starts relieving itch in as fast as 4 hours.
May cause worsening of existing parasitic skin infestations, serious infections, or pre-existing cancers. New neoplasias have been observed. Do not use in dogs under 12 months of age with serious infections or in breeding, pregnant, or lactating dogs.
Big or little itch, ask for Apoquel. Apoquel.
Sling has all the important national news you need at the best price. Making this sad old paperboy, oh so sad.
It's wild.
The most important news at the best price. Sling lets you do that.
Thank you. It's love. It's been home away from home. My son James, he's being treated for high-risk neuroblastoma. I want him to have a chance to grow up, and just to think that he was born with cancer shattered me.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital works day after day to find cures that save the lives of children and other life-threatening diseases. Families who never receive a bill from St. Jude for treatment and household bills. Please call or go online right now and become a St. Jude partner in hope for only $19 a month.
Having a child with cancer is an extremely tough journey. We went from remission and singing those ABCs to all of a sudden coming back for chemotherapy, radiation. Cancer does not care.
The relapse is very emotional. St. Jude has been amazing because it's all about care for the kid. We're here to help your grandson.
You can make a difference. Please become a St. Jude partner in hope right now. Join with your credit or debit card for only $19 a month, and we'll send you this St. Jude t-shirt you can proudly wear to show your support.
All these children, they deserve to live. Your donations are contributing one more piece of the puzzle to curing this horrible disease. I would love for it to be the day where no other family has to fear losing a child to cancer. You've given us hope.
You can join the battle to save lives by supporting St. Jude. Clogged gutters can cause big problems fast. Until now. Call 833 Leaf Filter today for your free gutter inspection.
I've had terrible flooding problems on my porch. Now I understand why.
Right now, Leaf Filter is offering a free inspection on your schedule. Leaf Filter is a permanent gutter solution, so you never have to worry about costly damage from clogged gutters again.
Call us today and schedule your free inspection.
Schedule your free inspection. Call 833 Leaf Filter today or visit leaffilter.com.
I'm the president of After School All Stars. Through innovative and enriching programs, we're helping students succeed in and out of the classroom. But more kids than ever are struggling with anxiety and depression. Economic hardships, kids falling behind at school, and the overuse of devices are all contributing factors. We must work together to empower parents to keep their kids happy and safe. Youth mental health is a difficult challenge. It requires a comprehensive solution.
We want to get you now to new developments in the war in Gaza. Hospital officials there say at least 41 people were killed and dozens more injured in an Israeli airstrike that hit a bustling seaside cafe. One official tells CNN that most of the casualties are women and children. The cafe offered internet access, making it a popular location for students and journalists alike. The Israeli military tells CNN it, quote, struck several Hamas terrorists in the northern Gaza Strip on Monday and that the incident is under review. Again, that's a statement from officials. Meanwhile, the pressure continues to mount on Israeli Prime Minister to reach a ceasefire deal before his trip to the United States next Monday, when he's expected to meet with President Donald Trump. The source tells CNN that Benjamin Netanyahu and Trump may have to come to a decision on an agreement this week. But certainly no promises, no guarantees there. Joining us now live from Al-Mawasi, Gaza, is Dr. Mohammed Mouassib. He's the Deputy Medical Coordinator in Palestine for Doctors Without Border. Dr. Mouassib, so good to see you, sir. Thank you for joining us. So, Doctor, in previous interviews, you've said that you won't call it a collapsed system anymore, that it's that bad. There is no longer a healthcare system at all. Tell our viewers what the situation is like right now and how, based on your account, it seems to be worse than ever.
I mean, since the ceasefire in March, I mean, things have deteriorated massively, I mean, very quickly. And, the new evacuation orders to the population in a big area in Gaza, led to a lot of hospitals in these areas no longer functioning. And this is another since the hospitals in Gaza, as well with the distribution homes that have been opened and a new category of injury of people seeking these food kits going there. And the fatality, more than 4,000 casualties, carrying of the organ. This is another of the function of the health. There is no beds for the emergency enough. There is no operating rooms enough. There is no inpatient beds enough. I mean, it's very good. I mean, patients are in the backyard of the hospital. They are very functioning. There is lack of supplies, medical supplies that are not entering since March. I mean, shortage of fuel to run the generator. I mean, there is no more to that system like we are speaking with. I mean, for what I'm seeing, there is no health system at all. I mean, it's very functioning on a daily basis.
Doctor, we know the connection is a little bit tough to establish, but we did get a majority of that. Speaking to some of the targets that have been hit there, speaking to the situation we hear from you about the shortage of hospital beds. I'm curious, with the de-escalation in the conflict between Israel, Iran, and the U.S., at least for now, have you noticed the international community perhaps refocusing on the crisis that you see there every day, as you just laid out right now, with the shortage of hospital beds and children essentially starving to death?
I mean, unfortunately, we've seen that all has become together. I mean, people focus more on that world, and it's not really what's going on in Gaza. It's only a bad sign because things didn't stop. The intensity strikes or bombing or the ground operation didn't stop people what I'm saying. The hospital was hit. I mean, very functioning. Supplies were not entering. I mean, food not entering. People are standing in queues for water. I mean, now there is today there is a need of 30 million for children, and there is no beds here for them to put them. There is no isolation in the hospital. I mean, the situation is beyond catastrophe. I mean, that's why I'm saying that there is no preventing this on a daily basis. The hospitals are functioning.
Dr. Mouassib, we know that your time is extremely valuable, so thank you so much for sharing some of it to really highlight and emphasize the situation on the ground. As you say, people are even trying to find the bare essentials, even if it's just water to drink. Doctor, thank you for your time. Do be safe, and we'll talk to you again. All right, so a new tax that's tucked into Trump's spending bill. It's hidden there. It's taking aim at solar and wind energy projects. It's that 11th hour edition that we've heard about. Why some say that this could actually kill some of that industry.
I ain't gonna get into the military shit. Just so that there was a time I felt like it was the only way I was gonna get out of LS.
Air Force Club. Sunday, July 13th on CNN.
My moderate severe Crohn's symptoms kept me out of the picture. Now I have Skyrizi.
And now I'm back in the picture. Feel significant symptom relief at 4 weeks with Skyrizi, including less abdominal pain and fewer bowel movements. Skyrizi helped visibly improve damage to the intestinal lining. And with Skyrizi, many were in remission at 12 weeks, at 1 year, and even at 3 years.
Don't use allergic. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccine. Liver problems leading to hospitalization may occur when treated for Crohn's.
Now's the time to take control of your Crohn's. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 prescribed biologic in Crohn's disease.
Friday nights, you bring your A game. Flirty walks, you bring your A game. Bring your A game when taking care of your sexual lives and include Apertude, a prescription medicine used to reduce the risk of HIV. Apertude helps give you continuous protection when taken every other month. And it's proven superior to once daily PrEP in reducing the risk of HIV. Let's make HIV negative to receive Apertude and get tested before each injection. If you think you're exposed to HIV or have some night symptoms, tell your doctor right away. More HIV testing may be needed. Apertude does not prevent other sexually transmitted infections. Practice safer sex to reduce your risk. Get Apertude as scheduled. Missing doses increases your HIV risk. Don't take Apertude if allergic to it or taking certain medicines that may interact. Tell your doctor about your medical conditions, liver problems, and mental health. Serious side effects include allergic reactions or rash, liver problems, and depression. If these occur, get medical help right away. The most common side effect is injection site reaction. You bring your A game to everything you do. Ask your doctor about Apertude.
Jurassic World, it's the movie of the summer. Here's Red Day. Take your first steps into the world of tomorrow. Wear the watch of the future today. We will protect you. Okay. Citizen, engineered with super titanium.
July 4th at 7 on CNN.
Bye-bye. Hey everybody, welcome back to CNN News on the other side of New York. Let's get you now an update on our top story. The U.S. Senate now continuing its marathon vote-orama with absolutely no end in sight as we approach 1:30 in the morning in Washington. You can see lawmakers are still in the Senate for important changes to the domestic policy agenda bill. Now, all of those amendments, they still need to be voted on, and it's not over yet because then it goes to the House. Senate Minority Leader, Democrat Chuck Schumer, he's accusing Republicans of making deals in secret as they negotiate changes. So far, Republicans, they've revealed new taxes on renewable energy, and they have authorized increased cuts to Medicaid. A huge sticking point, especially since it could potentially leave roughly 12 million more Americans without health insurance. I want to get some analysis now from Daniel Treisman, professor of political science at UCLA, and also co-author of Spinning Dictators, the changing face of tyranny in the 21st century. Joins me now live from LA. Really good to see you, Daniel. I know you're watching this closely over on the West Coast. Wondering if, obviously it's quite complicated. Most Americans have not paged through the 1,000 pages of this bill, so I'm wondering if you can help us understand what are some of those key sticking points, specifically maybe those two amendments that have that are being discussed right now: the Medicaid expansion and also this 11th hour.
Well, the main thing to understand about this bill is that it's a massive tax cut for the very wealthy. That's the essential, most costly part of it. Now, along with that, there are a few other things, like supposedly an attempt to pay for it by cutting back on Medicaid, as you said, potentially throwing 11 million more people out of health insurance. There's also this attempt to pursue other policy goals of the administration that is supporting fossil fuels and removing Biden-era subsidies for clean energy in the hope of saving some money that way. Of course, the savings add up to just a very small fraction of the additional cost that the tax cuts entail. And the analysts at CBO have said that the Senate bill will end up adding $3.3 trillion to the national debt. So the other aspects of the bill are really secondary to its main point, which is just to reduce the tax rates, in particular, in part for everybody, but in particular for the top 1%.
I'm wondering if we could discuss the situation that a handful of Republicans are finding themselves in right now. Talking about the Tom Tillises, the Rand Pauls on the Senate floor. It seems that they're getting threats from multiple directions. You have, on one hand, the commander-in-chief threatening that if they do not vote for this legislation, he'll primary any sort of opposition. And then on the other hand, you also have the world's richest man, Elon Musk, who's going to punish any legislator who supports the president's bill.
Well, it would be quite comic if it wasn't so sad. Of course, these issues are tremendously important for ordinary people. But now the Republicans, who have been scared of Trump for the duration of his second term, now find that they're also being attacked, as I said, from the other side. So if they offend Trump, then he'll arrange for primary candidates to fight them at the primaries. And now Elon Musk has said that if they do support him, then he will make it a point of supporting challenges in the primaries. So I guess it comes down to, are they more scared of the president or are they more scared of Elon Musk? And so far, at least, it seems Christian are still sticking behind the president.
It's worth making a very quick footnote here. In the last hour, President Trump suggested that his efficiency department should essentially look at cutting the subsidies that Tesla's CEO, Elon Musk, is getting. So essentially threatening to send Musk's former agency after his company. We're showing our viewers that latest message from the president. But moving on also on Tom Tillis, we discussed him a little while ago. What is your assessment of him bowing out? I think you touched on it just briefly, but just expand on what that tells us about the state of the Republican Party. It sure reminds us who's in charge.
Yeah, it seems they just don't think they can get re-elected if Trump opposes them or if they face challenges. It's a really crazy situation where the Republicans feel that unless they please the president in absolutely every detail, then they'll simply be unable to get reelected because of the loyal Trump voters and also the money that will come in and support challenges. So Tom Tillis deciding that he's not going to run again symbolizes this sense of vulnerability that the Republicans obviously feel right at the moment.
Professor Daniel Treisman, so grateful for your analysis as always. Thank you. Well, as we just touched on a little while ago, Senate Republicans, they've added some language to Donald Trump's budget bill that many say would actually devastate the future of wind and solar power in the U.S., an area of climate crisis. The provisions would not only repeal incentives for renewable energy, but would also impose a new tax on solar and wind projects, as you just heard. Those changes, some argue, would effectively kill the industry, one that many countries have to rely on with the looming threats of the climate crisis. Joining me now from Washington is Jael Holzman. She is a senior reporter for Heatmap News. It's so great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So in your opinion, what do you think could be behind this? Does it make any sense at all economically, especially when you consider the 11th hour nature of the tweaks to the bill? Or is it, as you write, a penalty?
First of all, nobody knows where this language came from. At the end of the week last week, in the middle of the night, a onerous, and some in the industry say project-killing tax was dropped into this mega bill that President Trump has been prioritizing. It would, for projects across the United States, suddenly mean a certain percentage of their budget gets taxed that they weren't expecting before, just as other tax credits were going away. What this means for a lot of investors, for CEOs across the energy industry, the technology sector that relies heavily on new, fast electrons coming to the grid, powering AI, powering data centers, it means a headache times a million. This is a
kind of customers we're getting off the beach are going to pay in cash. So this is where we take laundering to the next level.
What do you need, boss?
Alright. It's time for bed. Oh, God. And I will see y'all later. AKA, what is today? So I will see y'all in a few hours. So y'all have a great night. See you soon.